All right. Hey, welcome again. Thanks so much for checking out my review on books. I don't know how else to say that other than there's books that I read. I have a goal to read over 60 books this year. I keep changing it, but it keeps growing because readers are leaders. And I believe that if we continue to read, we continue to learn, and we will be prepared for whatever comes our way. And so that's what I do. I read books. And the book I read this last week, I actually don't feel comfortable even saying the first word. Like, let's be real. That's not the language that I use, but I wanted to read this book. Why? It's Nolan Garrett, an author, an business owner here in Spokane, Washington, where I'm from. And he wrote a book. And he wrote a book about his experience of launching his own business, the challenges that he went through, the mistakes he made, and hopefully, for those who read it, some tips and tricks so that you don't have to go through the same thing. John Maxwell is known to say that the best way to learn is through experience. Actually, he says that experience is not the best teacher, it's evaluated experience. That's the best teacher. But here's how I would also add to that. Yes, evaluated experience is the best teacher, but that experience doesn't have to be yours. Here's what I mean by that. You don't have to go through what Nolan Garrett went through in order to learn how to lead and do your business well. I'm not downplaying that. The things that he learned are valuable. They're truths that are timeless. They're truths that are written in, unfortunately, too many books. Why is that unfortunate? Because as you read this book, you'll hear his story of the mistakes he made, the challenges that he came across, the things he wished he would have done different, the relationships he would have changed, the people he would not have allowed on his team, the people that he wished he would have had on his team, how he wished he would have led himself to better take care of his staff and his customers. See, he actually starts out right away and he said, when I started my business, I thought I knew everything. After all, I was 23 and had just finished my degree. What could be so hard? As long as I delivered what the customer wanted, I was sure to be a success. Man, did I have a lot to learn. And what I didn't know could fill a book. So here we are, right? What he didn't know, he wrote a book about after he learned it. So what does that mean? That means that you and I can have a mentor in Nolan Garrett through his book of the things that he, let's be honest, he messed up on. Now, we shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. That's not the point of this. Actually, the point is to say, how are we learning to be better leaders for the people that are in our care? How are you learning about how to better lead yourself so you know how to lead others? What are you putting in so that when stress comes and stuff hits the fan, that what's inside of you comes out of you? I talk about this a lot, but let's envision that we're driving down the road. Now, I love to drink coffee without a lid on it. Some of you might know that, but when I get coffee from church, for instance, I'm saying, yes, please give me room, but no, please don't put a lid on it. There's just something about drinking through the lid that removes the experience for me with coffee. Yeah. So, what happens, of course, when I'm driving without a lid on my cup is that when I hit a pothole, stuff that's in the cup comes out of the cup. What I'm pouring in comes out. And that's the same. I mean, could you imagine if I was driving down the road and orange juice spilled out of my cup? That just doesn't make sense. That's not realistic. No, what's in my cup, when stuff gets hard, when obstacles come my way, when challenges come experience, which of course, by the way, you should expect them. Life is not a walk in the park. Even walking in the park, you have to go over speed bumps or cracks or step around dog poop if you're picking up what I'm throwing down. Reality is that we're all going to come across challenges. And the best way to be prepared is to learn and to read in advance and to gain the knowledge of what are things that are going to help me be successful. I've read a couple books recently that all start out with the same premise. Here's how I failed miserably, and I don't want you to do the same, so I wrote a book about it so you don't have to. Awesome. What if you and I were the people that read these books that then lived out what they were saying to put in? How many people would be better off because you and I grew in our leadership because we learned from people who made mistakes? Isn't that the point? Hey, like, I've made mistakes. Here are 10 things that will be helpful for you. Awesome. Don't let that be your story. Don't let that be your story where you said, hey, I didn't pay attention to the people who failed before me. I want to be successful. So I'm hoping and I'm believing that you do too. And you don't have to go through those hard things on your own in order to get to the other side. You see, we can learn through other people's experience. And here's the difference. The difference, and the only way for you not to have to go through these things, because it is a good way to learn, just wouldn't wish it on anybody, is you actually have to be intentional about doing the things that people say work. We actually have to realize that we don't know everything. Like Nolan Garrett said right at the beginning, I was 23 and I thought I knew everything about running a business. I mean, how hard could it be? So we go do it and we're saying, yeah, like, other business owner who's been in the business, been doing it for 40 years, you don't have any value to me. They're saying, oh man, I hope you don't have the same challenges I do. You don't experience the same heartaches that I did. And the only difference and the only benefit for information like this is that when you actually do the work, you're intentional with managing your time. You do things like he talked about of getting a business coach. You're not friends with your business. You grow in leadership. Be careful about who you partner with. Listen to this. Setting, communicating, and protecting strong boundaries are only part of the leadership challenge. But you still need to set, communicate, and protect boundaries. You need to have boundaries as a leader. You need to set correct expectations. You need to have the hard conversations. But you also need to do the work of setting that for yourself. Because if you're not setting boundaries for yourself, why would you expect your team to? See, the type of leader that you are will be reflected in the people you lead. So if you're struggling right now with retention, with commitment, with culture issues, the culture of your company is a direct reflection of your leadership. Ouch, that should hurt. Or, I hope, because we do the things that people who go before us do, we can say, that's such a blessing. That's refreshment. What a confirmation of the work I've done to put in boundaries, to be a leader, to communicate value, to set goals, to hold people accountable, to get the help I need through counseling or business coaching. These are all valuable things. And I couldn't help but when I read this book, again, a name I just won't say, what if I don't have to have the chapter 1 of his story, but I can start writing my book on chapter 2. His chapter 2, where he's learning all the things that actually helped him be successful in his business, not, make it a dumpster fire. What if my business didn't start like that? What if it didn't start with the dumpster fire, but it started with, hey, I'm going to stand on the shoulders of a giant. Nolan Garrett, he's created an amazing business here in Spokane. That's awesome. And I love it. And I think I want to build a business like that. And the good news is that we can. We don't have to go through the challenges that he went through to get to the success that he has. Because the frameworks and tools that now he's looking back and saying, I wish I had done these, are the same tools and frameworks that are available for you and for me today. Maybe you're not a business owner. Maybe you're just a manager, just a manager. Your responsibility is to lead people. It's not just a manager. It's not just middle management. You have a responsibility and an opportunity to impact the lives and the families of the people that you're over. Did you know that 70% of people will leave their current employer because of leadership? 70%. That's on you. That's on me. That's on how we lead our teams. And so we can read books like Nolan Garrett's book here and begin to implement the practices, the frameworks, the tools, which, by the way, are not limited to this book. It's nothing new. Read any self-leadership book, self-development, growth book, leadership books. They all say very similar ideas. The difference is the people who read them. Will you do them? So that's my challenge to you. Yes, pick up the book. One, because he's a local author. He's a local author, a local business owner, an entrepreneur. But he's got a real story to tell. And it's fascinating. And it's fun to read about what's going on in our community. Maybe you didn't know about Nolan Garrett. Maybe you didn't know about Intrinium. Maybe you don't know his story. Cool. Now you can, which is pretty awesome. Maybe you have no idea that Spokane was pronounced Spokane and not Spokane. That's fine too. But we have tools and opportunities to learn from others and let their experience be our teacher. Because evaluated experience is the best way to learn. Just remember, that experience doesn't have to be yours.